The chamber floated above a dying star, its light bleeding through crystalline walls that pulsed with shifting colors. Delegates from hundreds of civilizations filled the vast amphitheater, their voices rising like waves of static, each demanding answers about the species that refused to obey. Humanity, small, distant, defiant, had ignored every summon from the Galactic Council. Not even an acknowledgement, not a single envoy sent. For weeks, the silence had stretched, and silence in politics was more dangerous than war. The council speaker, an ancient Vernathi with translucent skin and eyes like frozen glass, struck the resonator. The hum of the room faltered. "This assembly," he declared, "is to decide how we respond to humanity's continued non-compliance." His voice was measured, but tension rippled through the chamber like electric current. Reports flooded the central dais. A hologram flickered, images of Earth, its atmosphere shrouded in white storms, its orbit crowded with unmarked stations. "Their industries have tripled output in 5 years," said the Keth Dominion's envoy, scales shimmering in anxious colors. "And yet they broadcast nothing. Trade halted. They ignore all communications. They're building something." An insectoid representative clicked its mandibles, irritated. "Then they prepare for isolation. Sanction them. Seize their colonies." The amphibious iron delegate rose from a pool of light, voice trembling. "We sent emissaries. None returned. Every ship vanished before reaching orbit. We detected faint energy signatures, unknown pattern, non-hostile but impenetrable. It's as if their planet denies observation." The chamber filled with murmurs, each species voicing fear disguised as arrogance. The humans were new to the stars, rough in speech, direct in their manner. They had fought pirates, repelled slavers, and refused tribute to ancient empires. The council once admired their stubbornness, until that stubbornness turned toward silence. A courier drone entered, carrying a priority transmission. The speaker activated it. For a heartbeat, the chamber dimmed. Then a single phrase appeared, white text on black void, in perfect galactic standard. "No negotiations. No tribute. Do not approach Earth space. No insignia. No voice." Just a message that felt less like a threat and more like a verdict. The stillness that followed felt heavier than gravity. Thousands of delegates froze, their translators silent. Then panic broke like thunder. Some shouted for war, others for diplomacy. "They threaten the Council's authority!" cried one. "It's a bluff," said another. "Primitive theatrics." But the speaker's fingers trembled as he closed the message feed. He had seen something else, an embedded signal hidden in the static, an encoded pulse recognizable only to advanced sensors. A signature, deliberate and untraceable. The analysts whispered that the signal wasn't a warning, it was a demonstration of access. The message had bypassed the Council's secure relay, transmitted directly into the Hall's core system. Humanity hadn't just refused, they had entered the unenterable. A young aide approached the dais, voice quivering. "Sir, our archives show they were warned last cycle, after the border incident near Proxima. They told us if another demand reached their soil, they would answer without words." The speaker's breath faltered. The memory resurfaced, a human diplomat once standing here, calm, silent, saying only asterisk. "Respect is not granted by proximity." Asterisk most had laughed at the time. No one was laughing now. Outside, through the chamber's transparent walls, the dying star's light dimmed, filtered through the station's shields. Shadows pulled across faces. The scent of ozone filled the air, and even the mechanical species seemed to hesitate, their processors calculating the unknown. The Council's military attaché broke the tension. "Authorize a containment task force. 3 fleets to Sol. We'll remind them who governs this galaxy." A murmur of approval rose, hollow and uncertain. Every delegate knew what it meant, an assertion of dominance, a show of strength. But beneath the words lingered unease. No one knew what the humans had become during their silence. The speaker struck the resonator once more. "So be it," he said. "Humanity has chosen defiance." His voice wavered at the edges of ceremony. As the chamber lights dimmed and the delegates filed out, the iron delegate lingered, watching the fading hologram of Earth's orbit. "They are not silent," he whispered to no one. "They are waiting." Far below, the star's dying light flickered against the transparent floor. It looked almost like a heartbeat, steady, patient, and unyielding. Beyond the reach of the Council's probes, Earth turned in absolute silence. No broadcasts, no open frequencies, not even civilian chatter. The planet that once filled the networks with noise had gone dark. Intelligence divisions called it the Great Blackout, assuming collapse or isolation. Yet every signal that did escape the Sol system carried order, not panic. Industrial readings rose exponentially. Orbital traffic increased. Distant observatories reported heat blooms around the Moon and Mars, precise, symmetrical, methodical. Something enormous was being built, but no one could see what. Recon drones sent by curious empires arrived at the edge of human space, only to disappear without distress calls. Those few that limped back showed corrupted data, as if space itself had folded. One recorded a brief image before system failure, massive shadows gliding beneath solar glare, shapes too angular and cold for natural formation. The image was blurred, yet analysts confirmed artificial construction on a planetary scale. The Council dismissed it as a glitch, but fear spread in private. Humanity's silence was no longer passive, it was strategic. Trade networks began to fracture. Merchant guilds pulled routes from Terran sectors, insurance prices spiked, and entire convoys rerouted around Sol. Refugees whispered of unmarked ships patrolling the void, black against the stars, their hulls absorbing light. No insignias, no identifiers, just motionless presence. Ships that trespassed were stopped without violence, systems shut down, engines frozen, crews unharmed but unable to move until they drifted back. It was control without confrontation. Spy transmissions from border colonies hinted at vast coordination. Mining output from the belt tripled, raw titanium and deuterium redirected to secret coordinates. Mars ceased tourist traffic and sealed its domes. Every planetary government responded to the Council's inquiries with automated replies. Internal development under authorization of the United Terran Command. No signatures, no names. Only the phrase repeated like ritual. The galactic media spun stories of rebellion, but those who studied human behavior knew better. Centuries of conflict had taught Earth discipline under pressure. They were not reacting, they were preparing. Each silence measured, each restriction calculated. Every decision pointed toward self-sufficiency. Without trade, their economy adapted. Without allies, their unity solidified. Without communication, their intentions became unfathomable. The absence of noise became their armor. Rumors began to swirl around something called Project Oblivion. The name appeared in intercepted encryption clusters traced to deep solar coordinates. None could decode its purpose, but all who investigated found their systems infected with untraceable code that erased itself after transmission. Some claimed it was an AI command matrix, others a planetary defense network. A few whispered it was something far more dangerous, technology that rewrote physical boundaries. Theories multiplied as fear became currency. Within the Council's intelligence division, one report was quietly sealed. It documented the final transmission from an exploration vessel near Neptune's orbit. The recording was faint, a voice speaking Galactic standard fluently, calm and mechanical. "This zone is under Terran jurisdiction. Leave now." The captain had tried to reply, but his signal collapsed, overridden by his own ship's system. Seconds later, the vessel was turned around automatically and sent back along its trajectory. No damage, no threat, only perfect enforcement. The Council still debated if humanity had even noticed their threats. Some claimed Earth had regressed, too primitive to respond. Others saw patterns hidden in randomness, the silence itself a weapon. Diplomats urged contact. Militaries urged blockade. None agreed on the truth. Every hour, more outposts reported faint sensor echoes, disturbances without mass, signatures without origin. Someone, or something, was watching the watchers. Inside their sealed borders, humans said nothing. They didn't seek war, nor did they yield to authority. The galaxy expected reaction. Instead, humanity vanished behind deliberate quiet. To them, diplomacy through fear was outdated. Influence came through precision, patience, and demonstration. While the Council argued over procedure, the faint glow of construction continued in Earth's orbit, rings of black metal expanding like a new dawn hidden beneath shadow. The analysts eventually stopped labeling the situation as a standoff. It was a waiting game, and humanity had mastered the art of waiting. The silence that once unnerved the stars had become an empire's pulse, steady, unseen, and impossible to predict. When the Council finally decided to act, it was not with caution but pride. 3 fleets departed from the Central Arm, banners of 100 species glinting beneath the starlight. The announcement framed it as a peacekeeping mission, but everyone knew it was punishment for disobedience. Broadcasts across the core worlds hailed the operation as a demonstration of unity. Yet behind ceremonial speeches, even admirals whispered unease. Humanity's silence had become an unknown variable in every equation. As the fleets crossed the outer colonies, civilian traffic cleared their path. The void grew darker the closer they came to Sol, sensors flickering with interference. Communication delay increased beyond prediction, and navigation systems began to lose synchronization. The fleet's command ship compensated with brute force, resetting coordinates every hour. The admiral brushed off the glitches as environmental anomalies, unaware that every adjustment revealed their position to the enemy they thought passive. At the border of Terran jurisdiction, they encountered nothing. No ships, no satellites, no warnings. The silence was so complete it felt physical. Hours passed without contact. Crews began to whisper that they were being watched. Then, without preamble, the stars themselves shifted, sensor ghosts flickering like movement behind glass. An officer shouted that hundreds of unknown signatures had appeared on short-range scans, surrounding them in perfect formation. Before weapons could arm, every system on the lead ships froze. Lights dimmed. Engines fell silent. A soundless pulse rippled through the formation. Ship after ship went dark, control decks plunged into stillness. Crews stared at consoles that no longer responded. Power levels drained as if space itself drank their energy. Some tried to broadcast distress, but their transmitters replayed only a single line of text across every channel. Asterisk. You were warned. Asterisk. 36 hours later, fragments of the fleet drifted back across the frontier, hulls intact, engines gutted of fuel, weapon cores vitrified. The few survivors recovered were incoherent. They spoke of black shapes gliding alongside their vessels, of voices echoing through static, of times slowing mid-command. None could explain how an entire armada had been neutralized without a single explosion. The Council tried to suppress the news, but data leaks flooded the trade networks. Analysts dissected sensor logs until they realized the horrifying truth. Human signatures appeared inside the fleet's encrypted systems. Earth hadn't destroyed them. It had reached into their ships and switched them off. Not through force, but through mastery of control that defied known physics. The phrase, silent strike, spread through every channel, a term that soon replaced asterisk. Containment. Asterisk. Within the chambers of power, chaos took root. Generals accused one another of sabotage. Technocrats demanded an explanation that never came. The Council speaker received a direct transmission through a supposedly isolated relay, its encryption level beyond their highest security. The message was identical to the first, unchanged, unembellished, asterisk. Do not approach Earth space. Asterisk. Admiral Corvell, who commanded the Lost Armada, stood before the tribunal with hollow eyes. He described the moment when he realized they were not under attack, they were being examined. They could have erased us, he said quietly. They didn't. That is what frightens me. His resignation followed, and his species withdrew its remaining ships from the frontier. Markets collapsed overnight. Insurance corporations declared human proximity zones uninsurable. Civilian outposts near Sol evacuated voluntarily. Refugees carried stories that spread faster than facts, invisible ships drifting among the stars, impossible power flowing without light, warnings whispered through machinery itself. In desperation, the Council declared the incident classified, but the damage was irreversible. Humanity had not fired a weapon, yet their message resounded louder than any bombardment. Their restraint was worse than aggression, it proved absolute superiority wrapped in silence. Across the galaxy, the phrase, "They do not negotiate," became both warning and prophecy. The Council fractured faster than any enemy could have achieved through force. Panic moved through the political arteries of the galaxy like infection. Worlds once bound by treaty turned on each other, blaming espionage and betrayal. The loss of 3 entire fleets without battle left a wound that would not close. Debates devolved into shouting, and in the chaos, the illusion of unity dissolved. The Speaker's authority collapsed beneath suspicion that humans had already infiltrated the Council's network. No one could prove it, yet every failed system update, every power fluctuation, was treated as human interference. Delegates demanded protection for their home systems. Entire species began withdrawing, forming isolation pacts. The Iron withdrew first, shutting down their interstellar gates and sealing communications. Others followed, citing strategic containment. Trade guilds halted credit exchanges, and the galactic economy imploded. The phrase human panic became common in military logs, a classification for any collapse triggered by fear of unseen Terran influence. Intelligence operatives whispered that Terran vessels had been detected in deep sectors where no human chart existed. Sensor readings showed brief distortions near ancient star lanes, gravity wells forming where no ships were visible. When pursued, the anomalies vanished, leaving signatures too clean to be coincidence. The possibility of stealth ships operating beyond known technology was undeniable. Scientists refused to theorize publicly. Every previous prediction about humans had proven wrong. Inside the Council capital, security escalated to martial law. Armed guards lined the convocation chambers, yet paranoia overran discipline. A single intercepted transmission shook what little composure remained. It contained fragments of an old Council broadcast, one originally transmitted centuries earlier to a newly discovered Earth. The recording was spliced, distorted, and returned with altered words, asterisk. "You brought us order. Now you will witness ours." Asterisk, no encryption, no trace. The message came from nowhere and everywhere. The Speaker attempted to restore calm with appeals to reason, but even his closest aides stopped trusting their own systems. Communication lines scrambled themselves mid-sentence. Navigation grids realigned into unfamiliar coordinates. A report surfaced that human-coded beacons had been found orbiting uninhabited moons thousands of light-years apart, each broadcasting a single repeating pulse. None understood the signal's purpose, yet all felt its implication. It wasn't conquest. It was surveillance. Humanity was watching everything, and that knowledge alone paralyzed nations. In desperation, a secret coalition within the Council proposed preemptive containment using planet cracker weapons. When the motion reached the floor, it triggered outrage. Half the assembly viewed it as suicidal, the other half saw it as the only chance to reassert control. Before the vote concluded, every terminal in the chamber blinked off simultaneously. The blackout lasted 9 seconds. When systems recovered, the weapons registry had been wiped clean. Launch codes vanished. Not disabled, erased from existence. The panic that followed stripped the Council bare of leadership. Worlds declared independence overnight, severing diplomatic lines that had endured for millennia. Fleets recalled to their home sectors, abandoning frontier patrols. Smugglers and minor empires filled the vacuum, spreading the rumor that humans had not simply retaliated, they had rendered the idea of resistance obsolete. Fear evolved into reverence among the fringe species, some even forming cults that worshipped humanity as unseen arbiters of fate. The Speaker, isolated and exhausted, ordered one last transmission toward Sol through every remaining diplomatic channel. It was simple, stripped of pride, asterisk. "We seek understanding." Asterisk, the message received no reply. Instead, across all frequencies, a faint static hum emerged, rhythmic and deliberate. Analysts discovered it matched the cadence of a human heartbeat. Power grids began failing throughout the capital. Artificial suns flickered. The grand chamber's lights dimmed until only the dying glow of the central star illuminated the faces of the remaining delegates. No declaration of war came, no fleet appeared, no weapon fired. Yet every being present understood the same truth: communication itself had ended. Humanity no longer needed to speak to be obeyed. The Council's capital drifted in uneasy silence, its orbit trembling under unseen pressure. Every channel, every beacon, every signal across the core flickered with static. No attack came, no declaration, no sign of a fleet, only the growing realization that power itself no longer obeyed them. Systems faltered one by one, lights dimming as if the galaxy were holding its breath. The few functioning sensors detected an approaching distortion, not a vessel but a void, swallowing starlight as it advanced. The Council ordered defensive activation, yet command terminals failed before the orders reached the outer rings. Across 1,000 monitoring arrays, the anomaly took shape, a colossal silhouette, featureless and black against the glow of the dying star. No heat, no drive signatures, no motion trails. It hung motionless, reflecting nothing. Every weapon trained on it, waiting for command approval that never came. Then a pulse swept through the station, soft but absolute, silencing engines, reactors, and every voice at once. For a full minute, no sound existed. When systems revived, the object was gone. In its place hovered a projection, humanoid, faint, composed of shifting light. The voice that followed carried no accent, no tone, no hostility. It was calm, measured, unmistakably human. "We came in peace once," it said, echoing through every chamber, every frequency, every mind. "You mistook silence for weakness. You mistook patience for submission. You sent fleets to our skies and demanded obedience." The words cut through the static like precision instruments, leaving no room for interpretation. The delegates sat frozen, paralyzed by a language too familiar to dismiss. The voice continued without pause. "We did not answer because we had nothing to prove. You sought dominance, we sought understanding. You brought war to the edge of our home, and we showed restraint, not fear. We hold no anger, only memory. You have seen what silence can achieve. You now understand what control means." Then came a single pause, long enough for the listeners to feel the depth behind it. "Earth negotiates only with equals." The projection fragmented, scattering into a million flickers that spread through the station's walls, traveling along the energy conduits like veins of fire. Consoles rebooted themselves, data streams restructured, and every ship within range powered down in perfect synchronization. No damage registered, yet all systems became inert, awaiting external release. For the first time in recorded history, the Council's military might became irrelevant. Across the galaxy, communication relays replayed the same message. In outer sectors, human-built constructs appeared on surveillance grids, orbital arrays disguised as asteroids, generating artificial gravity wells that bent light. In frontier colonies, mining stations received encrypted instructions signed only UTC. Every one of them executed flawlessly, reconfiguring trade routes and defense networks within hours. The pattern was clear: humanity had never withdrawn. They had expanded quietly, designing control that required no presence. Worlds that once mocked Earth now sealed their borders, refusing travel, terrified of unseen retaliation. Those who resisted found their navigation systems erased, star maps corrupted beyond recovery. No battles, no invasions, only compliance through inevitability. Fear turned to reverence, reverence turned to silence. The Council, stripped of purpose, dissolved itself within the next cycle. No successor arose. Governance ended not through destruction but through irrelevance. In the final hours before power faded, the speaker stood before the darkened hall, staring at the fading projection feed. He whispered into the dead calm line, "What are you now?" There was no response, only the faint heartbeat pulse returning to the system, steady, unbroken, and human. Beyond the core, new trade networks formed under Terran protocols. The galaxy adapted without resistance, following rules no one had agreed to but everyone obeyed. Humanity never conquered, they simply proved that dominance required no weapon, only precision and will. The stars belonged to those who no longer needed to speak. The last recorded transmission from the Council archives captured a single phrase whispered across the void, **. In silence they ruled. **.